because if you're clicking on videos that tells you how to leave your lazy era, honestly, you're feeling bad about something. You're feeling like you're not doing enough, and I do not like that for you. Hey guys, real talk, it's been a while and I missed you. You wanna exit your lazy era. Sorry to clickbait you a little, but don't scroll yet. Don't click out yet. The thing is about laziness, because obviously the theme of the week is productivity, work ethic, everything like that. I've been seeing so much videos pop up about being in your lazy era, and then every time I see one of those videos, even though I know they mean well, I have to think, does laziness actually exist? I did some research. It's interesting to me because everyone says like, oh my god, I'm so lazy. I just hate how lazy I am, which is understandable. But before I get into the research, let me give you a full outline for this week, because while I am talking about laziness, work ethic, and all things productivity in this episode, to extend this, the podcast is going to be about failures and setbacks, kind of how to not let your failures and setbacks keep you from achieving your goals. As for the blog post, I'm thinking either check-in questions to help you with your self-accountability, or focusing on tools that are helping me maintain my work ethic, or a combination of both. I do not know what I'm titling it yet. Stay tuned for the content this week. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. And now let's get into it. So back to what I was saying. I don't know if laziness actually exists. One thing I was thinking about this week is how people criticize other people for the things they do or don't do. While I don't love celebrity culture, actually I kind of hate it, if I'm being quite honest. Truthfully, I don't really care or stan any celebrities, so you know I'm just gonna be like whatever about it. But this is the video. I hope it does not get copyrighted. As a content creator, I'm not really sure of what I'm allowed to put in and not allowed to put in, but full credit to the owner. This video is just for educational purposes, so let's roll the clip.
I don't know why that video of Hailey Bieber when she was like, I just got back from work, really irked me with the comments. Like all the comments, not all, but a lot of the comments were like, work, you just got back from work, work. Are you not tired? Are you not exhausted of pretending you don't know what this type of work is, whether it's a creator, an influencer, a model, an entrepreneur? Like, are you not exhausted of pretending like you don't understand what this space is? Social media has been around for too long now. Like, you use it yourself to then pretend to act like you don't understand someone like Hailey Bieber's job for her to say that she got back from work. Work looks different for so many people. That's just how it is. Y'all, to me, are the same people. If a mom is a stay-at-home mom and she was like, oh, I'm so tired from today, I wish I could have a break. And you're like, oh, you've been at home all day. Work. She's been at home all day taking care of her child. That's a job. What? It's just like, stop pretending like you don't understand what people's jobs are, how it works. We've had social media for too long to keep acting like that. I don't really care what your opinion is about Hailey Bieber or whatever that is that you have going on with that invisible beef with you and her, but like, let's just stop pretending that we don't understand this space.
Okay, so you saw the video, and shout out to that creator by mentioning it, because as soon as I saw that video, the first thing I commented underneath it was, just because someone is working differently doesn't necessarily mean they're not working hard. And I think with productivity, we have this thing, whether it's we're judging ourselves or other people are judging us, that we don't work hard enough. That's why I'm not sure if laziness exists. According to research, our culture's belief that people are secretly lazy deep down and need to be browbeaten into productivity is very old and has far-reaching roots, says Devin Price, PhD. It dates back to the Persians and the belief they had about hard work being a signal that the person was morally understanding. I've been trying to wrap my brain around this because especially last week I had a very hard week. I talk about the most in the podcast. I'm not going to go too much into it here, but I just had a really hard week, and it's mostly with hormonal issues. No matter how much I tried to do work, I would be working and then it just like falling asleep as I'm working. I would be crashing. And it's not that I don't want to do the hard work. It's not that I'm not motivated to do the hard work. It was just, I really didn't have the energy. And I do think I talk about this with my last videos, you know, with self-discipline, motivation, and interestingly enough, I was on the search for another way to talk about productivity because as I'm listening to No Excuses, I kind of hit a wall listening to it because I got so unsatisfied while reading and listening to that audiobook. I was in search of another way to listen about productivity. There were so many things that stood out to me. Instead of the idea of working hard, which for productivity, adding more play to it so it seems like something you want to do. He talks about different ways to add play into your daily process of doing the hard things. On Spotify, and I believe you can listen to it for free as long as you have Spotify Premium. There was just so many interesting things I thought was in the book, and a lot of things like it's either I've heard about it personally as a wellness girly, or it expanded my mind on something that I didn't really recognize. Okay, so the first thing I found interesting was how he says act as a character. So the reason why I found this interesting is because I always think people hate, and here's the thing, especially in content creation, I feel like a lot of times like too much overly aesthetic things are pushed. However, I understand having aesthetics to do a job, if that makes sense. So you know how, I don't know if this was my For You page just because I was in school at the time, but I was getting a lot of like corporate boss girl type content, like what I wear as a corporate girly in New York, like type videos. And it's just like they show things like how they dress, what they eat, how they organize their schedules and everything. And I think that's a huge part of it. And it kind of relates to the thing he said because he talks about like characters. So he gives like 8 types of characters. The first type of character plays, to be exact. So the first one he said was the collector. I also take collectors as a sense of a researcher too, because I don't know, like when you say like searching for rare plants, when you're searching for something, I think of you more as a researcher, if that makes sense. So I feel like researchers and collectors can kind of fall into this category. People who gather things is essentially what the collector is. The next one is the competitor. Enjoys games and sports and takes pleasure in trying their best and winning. And this one I found personally interesting because of something else in later chapters. He talks about like how people are also an energizer. So when people work more in sync together in a certain way, very much more in alignment. He also says something about having a comrade mindset instead of a competitive mindset, because stuff like that can lower your mood and lower your energy. Anyways, continuing on, the explorer likes to wander, discover new places and things they've never seen through hiking, road tripping, and other adventures. Number 4, the creator. The creator finds joy in making things and can spend hours every day drawing, painting, making music, gardening, and more. And I thought that one was me because as a content creator, I feel like I would be more in this category. But then the next one is actually storyteller. So the storyteller has an active imagination and uses their imagination to entertain others. They're drawn to activities like writing, dance, theater, and role-playing games. And the funny thing is he does say like you can choose like 2 archetypes, And why is it, do I feel like the creator and the storyteller is both my archetypes? But also there's another one I'm kind of drawn to, but I'll get to that one. The next one is the Joker. The Joker endeavors to make people laugh and may play by performing stand-up, doing improv, or just pulling a lot of pranks to make you smile. Next one, the Director, which is a person who likes to plan, organize, and lead others and can fit into many different roles and activities, from directing stage performances to running a company to working in political or social advocacy. And number 8 is, I can't pronounce the word. It's kind of related to kinetic energy. So this person finds play in physical activities like acrobatics, gymnastics, and free running. I do think having an aesthetic kind of like fits, which is why I think a lot of people should, instead of trying to fit into an aesthetic, make their own aesthetic and put that into a role. For example, as a creator slash storyteller and a little bit of a director, since I like to be in charge, I like doing my own thing. But how I would show up in those spaces and I guess exude that energy is also by creating an aesthetic. And it doesn't have to be like I mentioned before with like the corporate girl aesthetic, where they have like their little coffees and like they wear the same type of clothes and have the same brands, and you know what I'm talking about. But I feel like one of the best things you can do for yourself to make work more fun is to have that type of personality, as if you're acting in a TV show or acting in a play, and just make it fun for yourself any way you can, if that's what you need to do to get through the day. So moving on, another interesting point of this book that I really liked, always having a beginner mindset and always treating things like you're a beginner, so it kind of lowers the stakes for you. Another reason why we start to procrastinate when we get like very deep into our crafts is because if we feel like we know everything, we don't try to evolve. So by having a beginner mindset and kind of like always being curious, and it's not the first book I've read that talks about curiosity. I read Big Magic, and the person said that curiosity is a clue. And I took that so to heart. I know the phrase is curiosity kills the cat, but I also feel like people don't want us to be curious because the other phrase, ignorance is bliss. But also by being ignorant, you're also kind of easier to control in a sense. People who are unaware of everything will just kind of listen to whatever someone says and take it as truth without discovering their own truth. Curiosity and constantly being curious is very important, not only to the fact it leads you to your interests, not only to the fact that it lowers the stakes for you and makes you more able to continue doing something without feeling so frustrated with yourself. It's also the fact, like, I feel like being curious protects you from being taken advantage of. Take that as you may. Okay, next thing that the book talked about. He talks about something called the protege effect, which is basically if you are going to teach someone something, you actually learn it yourself faster. And I found that so reassuring, because since my content is heavily, I would say a little more educational, even though it is lifestyle, but it's a little more on the educational side, trying to teach people things forces you to think more deeply. And he also says something along the lines of, don't worry about if you're qualified or not, because the best people to learn from aren't necessarily experts, but just people who are a step ahead of you. That you don't need to be a guru. Am I saying that right? I don't know how to say it, but you just need to be a guide. That was something I feel like a lot of us need to hear. Sometimes we get in our heads, especially if you want to make content, about why would someone listen to you. And I think hearing that, like, it's okay to just be a guide, made me feel a lot more in my power about this and about what I'm doing, and a lot more self-assured. and this is going to be the last thing I mention because this video is probably really long already, is he talks about the different ways to deal with procrastination and how you either get stuck by procrastination, end up not doing anything. The first way is being defeated by procrastination. The second way is motivation, and how he talks about motivation is, first of all, he mentions that there are two types of motivation, which is intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation focuses on more purpose, interest, mastery, curiosity, and pride. So things you can feel inside yourself, inside your soul. And eccentric motivation focuses on things like money, grades, points, career, and exams. He said that motivation is supposed to be looked at as a spectrum. But another interesting thing he says is like motivation essentially focuses on how you feel, whereas discipline is kind of different in the sense, because he names that as the third one, where discipline is basically like just do it, like the Nike phrase, just do it. It essentially tells you to not think about your feelings or do things regardless of how you feel, which does erase people with poor mental health and all these other things. He mentions a fourth method, and the fourth method is essentially, he calls it the unstuck method. And the unstuck method, he says to basically essentially keep asking why. Like, why are you doing something? And to ask it 5 times. Because a lot of times when we procrastinate, it's because there is a negative emotion on the surface. There is something getting in the way. And the point of the unstuck method is to kind of look at it of what is causing your limitations so you can work through it. And when he makes that point, he also talks a lot about goal setting, which I absolutely loved. Because even though I am doing the 12-week year, I consider that more of the execution plan, but the goal setting format is something so different. And I talk about this a little bit in my podcast episode that I recorded today. So the goal setting, there are so many goal setting methods, but I feel like the most common one is the SMART method. With the SMART method for goal setting, I'm going to put what it means somewhere on the screen. With that method of goal setting, I always found it very difficult for me to actually accomplish something thinking about that, because I felt like it was too focused on the outcome. And when it's too focused on the outcome, and if you're someone like me who has straight tunnel vision, because I will admit, like even with my content creation journey that I'm on right now, that it has been hard not to look at like how many likes I get, how many subscribers I've grown to, and how many people have seen like my previous content, like stuff like that, like views. And the thing is, while views are important to view, and like the numbers so you know that you're making progress is important, but when you're checking it constantly and then feeling like you are not doing enough, it kind of like blocks you from actually focusing on the actions you're supposed to be taking. So he introduces another method for goal setting, and he calls it NICE. So NICE stands for near term, input based, controllable, and energizing. Based on the examples he used, I feel like it focuses more on the daily of things you could do daily. So similar in the 12-week year, because people have talked about like what can you do daily to achieve your weekly goals, because that's how the system works. Is basically breaking down SMART goals, and it's basically breaking things down in smaller steps so you can accomplish it. So I thought that was very beneficial, very great to improve your work ethic, because that's one of the best things I think that the 12-week year and what he talks about has in common. Let's chat about productivity. Now that you got the research, let's just have a little talk. Because if you're clicking on videos that tells you how to leave your lazy era. Honestly, you're feeling bad about something. You're feeling like you're not doing enough, and I do not like that for you. No matter who you are, like obviously I don't know you, I don't even know who's watching. Developing your life should not feel like that. You should not feel guilt, you should not feel shame or anxiety about the things you want to create in your life. You should feel excited, and even when the challenges come up and the setbacks happen, because understanding those are a part of your plan, those are essential to happen in order to achieve. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but while I am so proud of you, if no one said it, I'm saying it now, I'm so proud of you for putting in the effort to even think about ways to kind of exit your lazy era. Personally, I don't think laziness exists, because then exists the fact that not everyone has the same 24 hours. I know that like, a lot of people like to say like, oh, everyone has the same 24 hours, but we don't. Because the reality is some people have to do things more on their own, and it's not necessarily have to, but their circumstances kind of create that dynamic for them. Some people don't have supportive families. Some people have to focus on like moving out in order to grow and expand, while other people, they can grow and expand in the place they grew up in. Then there are people who grew up with the luxury of having a home with more help, like they never really had to do chores or clean or cook, because in their household, like having help in that way, paying people to do those tasks that other people have to do for themselves, which does save time. Some people do have that, and it saves them time, and they can focus on bigger things. And I'm not saying like taking care of yourself, like eating a good meal and like doing the laundry and staying clean and organized is a small thing. What I'm saying is support systems does help, and having a large support system, an ecosystem of people to keep you going does help. So if you don't have all the resources and you have to figure out things a different way, I just want to remind you to be gentle with yourself, and that even if you feel like no one is in your corner, a stranger from somewhere in the world is rooting for you. And you don't have to be miserable to be productive. You can feel happy while being productive. You don't have to suffer in order to have good things in life. And I want you to remember, you deserve good things regardless, simply because you're human. I know you're trying to exit your lazy era, but I really hope this video helped you in the sense to realize like maybe you're not lazy, maybe you're just low energy, and maybe you just need to change your process. And if you feel like a failure, check out my podcast episode that's hopefully gonna come out on Friday, because we have a new uploading schedule. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.